Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
From the beautiful city of Abuja, it is my pleasure to welcome you today to today's edition of Money Radio from Leadership TV, and you are on to the agribusiness segment of the program. Today we are discussing a topic that says improved animal husbandry as panacea for unemployment and youth restiveness. In the studio to discuss the issue with me is Mr. Paul Uwadima. Mr. Paul Uwadima is an in-house analyst, and of course, he's our regular guest on this program. Mr. Paul, you're welcome.
Thank you, Bob.
And I'm your host, Kes Hammond. There is enormous potential for animal husbandry. You know, when we talk about agriculture in Nigeria, it's narrowed down in the minds of many people to just growing crops and processing and eating. But there's so much to it. In fact, animal husbandry, just the cow gray or rearing of cows in the country, according to one estimate, is worth 13 trillion naira. 13 trillion naira. That is the worth of this industry right now, and it's growing. It's likely to grow to much more than that in the near future. But it is hardly going to grow because when I say it's hardly going to grow, because we are not taking advantage of the opportunities in that subsector. Yes, animal husbandry. And so when we are not taking part in that, or we're not making the optimal, making use of the optimal opportunities in that sub sector, sub industry, it's time to reduce the potential, and that is what we want to discuss today, Mr. Paul. Welcome again to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Where are we when it comes to animal husbandry, Mr. Paul?
You talked about 13 trillion naira. You're talking about the cattle sector,
Exactly.
alone.
Yes.
The whole of the animal husbandry sector, according to the World Bank, is estimated to worth over 30 trillion naira.
Yes.
Because the animal husbandry is not only about cattle, it's about goats. Are you getting a
Yes,
sheep?
sheep and all of that.
And all of that. You are
Piggery
talking
and all of
about
that.
piggery, you are talking about poultry.
You make a fine point there.
Are you getting it?
Yes.
The whole value chain in the sector
Yeah.
encompasses everything. So it's a very important sector that is contributing enormously
Yeah.
to the development of the country. If you value the GDP contribution of this, you will also be amazed because most of the meat we eat in the country, uh, we generate it from this local production.
Exactly.
Of course, we do import about 1.3 trillion for live animals. But that said, most meat that people eat in this country is derived from Nigeria here, or at most perhaps from a neighboring country like Niger. So it's not something to joke with, making the industry to thrive. Because the livestock sector is has a lot of value chain in it. If you talk about the cattle, it's not just about the meat. You are talking about hide and skin and other
Which is another
yeah,
major sub industry.
of it that is contributing enormously to the development of the country.
You also talk about
Because,
dairy,
yeah,
dairy products. Yeah.
exactly. So all these are potentials and opportunities for the young people in terms of employment generation, in terms of investment. So the sector is actually it's like a gold mine, to be frank. It's a gold mine that, if it is looked into properly, would lift a lot of people from poverty. Yes. So it's an industry that Nigerians should pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And you can see
Now,
the World Bank valued this as over 30 trillion naira, and you can imagine what it means.
yeah.
But it has a lot of challenges. It has not been easy for people who are in the business of animal husbandry. That is why also the cost of meat and the cost of chicken and other other animals that are being reared in the sector, they are not cheap
Yeah.
because of the challenges they face in terms of animal feed and other challenges that is in the sector.
Now, Mr. Paul, it's clear we are not making optimal use or deriving optimal value from this industry. And I would like to point at one of the possible areas that we can improve. Take for example, you see the cows on the screen there, and the goats and the sheep. They are all taken around by herders. But you see these small boys, young boys, 8, 9, 10, that are leading a whole herd. They will move from place to place, and there are implications, negative implications to all of that.
Yeah.
Number one, when we say the industry is deriving little, or the sub industry is deriving little or no value, a young boy or a man taking these things around, only him is benefiting, if he will benefit at all. But first of all, he may be malnourished. He may, or of course, the animals themselves may be malnourished. But besides being now malnourished, they may exert so much strength that even to produce dairy products, to produce milk, which of course we use in our milk and butter industry, the value chain extends all the way on that end. Now, they lose so much strength that they can hardly produce enough milk or grow enough flesh, which is meat being lost, milk being lost. Now, take a look at it from this other angle, assuming there are ranches where these things can relax, they are fed, they don't have to exert so much of their strength and energy moving from one state to the other or from one country to the other. If that is done, number one, those things will have strength to produce the milk, will have strength to, they will have enough rest so that they can grow more flesh. But when you involve other people in the milking of the cow, when you involve other people in the milking of the cow, when you involve other people in the tannery, when you involve other people in the value chain of, or the extensive value chain of the animal husbandry industry, you see that more people are employed and we have more value, have more meat. And these things will be able, or these animals will be able to reproduce more. Your comments?
Yeah, ideally, that's what it should be when you talk about science and technology and improvement in the sector. Yeah, because if we are, excuse me,
Sorry.
if we are to go about it in a scientific way, ranching is the best option. But ranching has faced a lot of challenges in the country in the sense that it is very costly, it's expensive. That is why the traditional headers don't want to embrace it. They cannot, many of them cannot afford it.
Why is it expensive?
Many of the owners are not ready to do that because look, let me tell you something. As long as people still see opportunity to get free food, they are not ready, they will not be ready to pay for food. So that is the same thing that is happening in this sector, especially when we talk about cattle rearing. As long as they can get free food by moving them around and going to people's farms and going to the bushes. They will not. They will not want to go and buy expensive animal feed. Are you getting what
Yeah,
I'm
but
saying? So
Mr. Paul,
that's the problem. So there has to be law. Already some states are making the law to ban open graze. So if you can enforce it, it's not just making the law. If it can be enforced, and then not just enforcing it, and there is a provision, an incentive to make the herdsman or the herdsmen to be able to rear their cattle in an enclosement. You know, the herdsman is moving his cattle for a lot of reasons. Many of them climatic, many of them are issues that has to do with weather. That's why you see him move it around, because when during the dry season, when he didn't see enough foliage to feed the cattle, he move it down south where you get enough vegetation and all that. So that is basically what is controlling his movement,
yeah,
and
but
that
Mr.
is why
Paul,
he's in conflict with the farmers, the crop farmers. Are you getting it?
I'm getting
So
you.
the issue need to be addressed in such a way that he will have the incentive to stay one place, and there should be provision of land for him to do that. He may have to buy it through uh, maybe loan from government or from the banks or whatever process he has to do it. Until that is done, it will be very difficult for us to have a situation where they will sit at an enclosure. That is why even though states that have made laws banning open grazing, it has not been, they cannot be able, many of them couldn't enforce it. There are a lot of challenges, because the truth of the matter is that we have to find alternative means of financing for them. They have to be financed.
You know, Mr.
And
Paul,
the government has to be involved, because one, we have decided that roaming the cattle around is out of the question. In, based on our population, our climatic condition, and the future, it can't work. So what do? We have to find a way, a middle ground, whereby ranching could be set up for them, either in cooperation with the state government or with the federal government. Something have to Something has to happen in that process, because that's why, when you enact a law banning open grazing, you must also make a provision available so that they can be able to be encouraged to go into ranching. And many of them cannot afford it, to be frank. So what you need, government should fund the ranching process. Government should fund it. They have to look for the money. They have been looking for money for so many things in this country. So this thing that used to generate conflict, fighting, killing of people, they ought to raise money to put ranching for them.
all right.
Of course, they will put that money there. It could also be as a kind of loan. They will pay back with time. But not having the ranches available, and then you have already banned on open grazing, is a potential for conflict. And it's happening all over the country despite the laws that have been passed.
All right. Let's take a short break. Once we come back, there are a few other things I would like us to discuss on this issue of open grazing and the temptation to do so, or the disincentive to not do it. When we come back, stay with us, viewers. Short break.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back, viewers. You are still on to Money Radio, and this is the agribusiness segment of the program on Leadership TV. We have been discussing a topic that says improved animal husbandry as panacea for unemployment and youth restiveness. And with me discussing the issue is Mr. Paul Uwadima, and I'm your host, Case Hammer. Mr. Paul, before we went on that break, you were talking about disincentives or lack of capital, the incentive to do open grazing. And I was about to ask you a question to counter that point you were making. You know, I was watching a documentary on a station called Al Jazeera. And in that documentary, it was highlighted how grazers in Sokoto State have been enlightened and they have been incentivized to do ranching, close grazing. And as a result of that, I don't remember the figures properly right now, but as a result of that, there was improved reproduction among the animals, more milk from the animals because they rested well, and more profit. So I would like to think that the issue was, I mean, the issue has to do with, I would like to think that the issue has to do with how to enlighten these farmers, and giving a little incentive. But the main thing will be enlightening them because there is the temptation to go about open grazing is actually less profitable than going ranching. That is where the profit is. And as I said earlier, it creates jobs because when you have people doing the ranching, tending to the animals, when you have people doing the tanning, that's tannery, or getting the skin off and selling the skin. Of course, we have from our goats in this country, especially the Kano goats, you have some of the best leather in the world. So, talking about skinning and then getting the leather out of it, some people can be doing that. That is job creation. And you have milking. Some people can be doing that. That is another aspect of the industry, and some people can engage in that and do better. So the entire value chain brings more than just taking these animals up and down.
Yeah, I agree with you that the modern way of doing things of rearing cattle is supposed to be what we do. But we are looking at the challenges we face as a nation in this particular sector. Because you and I, we can be in this studio and talk about all this. But we know that people are being killed every day in this country because farmers and herders are looking for space for available scarce resource, which is the foliage. Sometimes the cattle stray into their farms and all manner of conflicts uh, are ignited. The truth of the matter is that open grazing is not the way to go. We all agreed on it. And the anti grazing laws is the right way to go in terms of making laws about it. But when we make these laws, or before we make these laws, we should be able to take into consideration the interest of the header too. And it's not rocket science. It's just that government has to get involved, provide subsidy for the header in terms of creating a market for it. Considering in the ranches as a market for them. Are you getting it?
Yes.
Investing in it. Uh, of course, there's always suspicion with the issue of land. People are attached to their land. Maybe they don't want to give it out. But there is a way that stakeholders can come together and all those suspicions can be erased so that there will be incentive for the cattle rearer to stay in one place. We need to solve that problem, and it's a problem that we are not ready to really address it. And that is one of the challenges facing the sector. You can see many of the programs that the government started, some of them ended midway. We There was a time the government was talking about cattle colonies. It was an issue that raised a lot of emotion, and some people kicked against it. And today we don't know where we will stand on that. That the government now changed to Ruga. Ruga raised a lot of emotion. We don't know where we are now. Ruga. They say some states have agreed to have Ruga. When the Ruga issue could not be properly addressed, we now move to another one, which we call National Livestock Transformation Plan, which is where we are now. Now you can't really, which is under the vice president. Not much is said about it. Not much is known about the states that have already keyed into it, and what the progress so far. You hardly get informed on these things. Maybe because as elections around the corner, maybe the APC government will tell us some of the states where the thing is working fine. But what I'm saying is that the animal husbandry sector, especially when it comes to cattle rearing, has been politicized, and there is a religious sentiment in the whole thing, which is affecting the productivity and the sector. If not, it's a sector that could catapult the economy of the country as a major supplier of meat and dairy and all over the world. Because we have the land mass, we have the people, and we can revolutionize it, apply the scientific process of doing it. The header don't have to be moving around everywhere. But if there is incentive for him to stay one place, and he discovered that staying that one place is even much more better for him than moving around, he will embrace it. It's an issue that it's a constant conversation we still have to carry on in this country, because issue is not going to go away. After 2023, whichever government is in power will still have to confront it. It's Nigeria's demon, you can't run away with it. What do you do about headers and their movement of cattle from one place to another? It's an issue that has not been resolved. It's an issue that has been politicized. It's an issue that we need to solve if we are really serious about making the best out of the animal husbandry sector, out of the livestock sector. That's the truth. It's our demon that we must confront in this country. We
Yes,
can't run
and
away from it.
in line with what we are discussing today, it's also likely to improve on the issue of employment.
Of course, it will. It
Get
will.
more of our youth
This,
employed.
the sector is a gold mine. Animal husbandry sector is a gold mine. We are just talking about the cattle. If you go look at the poultry sector was billions of naira in
Yeah,
this country,
yeah,
and the thousands, if not millions of Nigerians are employed because of the poultry sector alone.
exactly.
Millions all over the country, in all the value chain of it. Nigerians are getting paid, they are getting engaged. So it's a sector that is really providing the job that government cannot provide. If you look at our poultry sector, it is very huge. And most of the egg we eat in the country today are basically Nigerian grown
Nigerian grown
eggs.
eggs.
The bird we eat in Nigeria are basically Nigerian grown birds. You know, so it's a sector that has a lot of potential, and our population keep on increasing, and there will be more mouths to feed. So there's a lot of incentive to invest in the animal husbandry, in all the value chain of it, whether it is fishery, whether it is piggery, whether it is cattle, whether it's poultry, a whole lot of value chain. And youth themselves should not see animal husbandry as a job only for the elderly
Yeah,
or the illiterate. It is a job that requires the best of our youth. so that they can apply scientific knowledge in the agricultural sector. Because some of the best farmers in the world, they are very highly educated. So it's not a question of saying that these jobs are animal husbandry is for the illiterate, is for the uneducated, or for retired civil servants. When somebody retires a civil servant, start poultry business. A young person can start poultry business and grow it to become one of the biggest in the country.
You have a
There are people who have hatcheries. Your own is just hatcheries. You have birds and you are selling them all over the country. There are companies that are doing that in this country right now. They just hatch the birds and they old. Are you getting it?
Yes.
They old chicks. They sell it all over the country. They move it from Ibadan to all over the country. They move it from Abeokuta to all over the country. All over the. These are things that, as a young person, you can do it. They are talking about scientific agriculture. Why do we go to school? It is to make our process of doing things better than our parents did it. So anybody, young people, is an opportunity for them to look at this sector, to invest in it, to put their interest in it. And the sky is the limit for a young person that will show interest. First, they can get employed there, they can learn the process. And some of these things, how to start it, the use of today, they are lucky. There are a lot of incentives they can go, just going to YouTube. They will learn how to do these things, how to rear the chicks, how to develop some of these things, how to take care of them in terms of medicinal application and all that. You go to YouTube. The use of today are digital kids. They know what to do. So information is at the tip of their fingers. So there's a lot of incentive. There's a lot of opportunities for young people to be employed in this sector. And I think as the election year is coming, I think one of the things some of these politicians should do is to take some of these youths, empower them by training, getting people to train them on how to run a poultry and things like this. Empower them. It's more important than giving them money, which they will use and buy some things that are not even good for their body. So training the youth, let the youths themselves show interest in agriculture. Agriculture is not only for the old people in the villages. It's for young, vibrant people. They can make it better than the elderly people because now they are open to innovation. They are open to knowledge. They can be able to apply scientific process of fertilizer application than their fathers. Are you getting it?
Yes.
They could be able to take care of their chickens better than their fathers. They'll be able to know the veterinary doctors to consult when there is need for that. So the youth are needed in this sector, and I think government should do everything possible to encourage the youth to look at it as a source of employment. Even the National Youth Service Corps, some of the training they give these days during the course orientation should be letting them get the on-hand knowledge of participation in animal husbandry.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's the future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paul, for those informed thoughts. And of course, we always appreciate you on this show because you give our listeners what they need to hear, a good dose of the information you need in the agribusiness sector. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks to you, our producers. I've been your host, Chris Hammond. Our biggest thanks actually go to you who follow us loyally on this program. We say continue to do so. And, it is because of you we are here and we continue to do our best to bring you the best in information and analysis. Until we meet tomorrow for another edition of the show, we say to you, have a great day and stay blessed.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.